All right, guys, welcome back to Module 2. To summarize, we just went over the marketing leading to sales, leading to the product and offer. Okay, so now we got the overall framework in terms of how we're going to be able to raise capital and recruit investors to invest in our deals so that we can hit our financial goals while helping other people hit theirs as well. Now, there are 3 questions that are my favorite 3 questions to ask, whether it's general business, but especially when it comes to raising capital. These are my favorite. Okay, so let's go to the whiteboard real quick. And the first question I want you guys to write down and really think about, and I'm going to go over the framework on how to come up with these answers, as we go through this. Now, guys, these questions, all the framework that I'm covering right now, like I'm sure there are many of you who are like, well, Daniel, I thought you were just going to give us the magic pill to be able to raise capital. Well, I am. This is the magic pill that has helped me raise capital in a much more efficient and less timely way than a lot of other people that try to do this. I mean, this is literally the fundamentals. This is what we're doing. Imagine trying to play a basketball game without knowing how to dribble, pass, or shoot, right? Like this is the fundamental stuff right here. All right, so first question is, who is my ideal client? Right, AKA dream client, you can call it ideal client, whoever that is. I would argue that the reason why a lot of you guys struggle with raising capital is because you don't even know who you're even raising capital from, right? You don't even know who you need to go to. So for example, there's a company called Spanx, right? So it's created by a woman named Sarah Itzler, right? So her husband's Jesse Itzler, who is a well-known owner of the Atlanta Hawks, right? And they're married. So it's Sarah Itzler, right? So she created a product called Spanx. So Spanx, multi-billion-dollar company. Now, to ask you a question, who do you think are Spanx's ideal client? Would it be someone that looks like me? Probably not, right? A 27-year-old Korean guy who's 5'9", 155 pounds. I am not the ideal client for Spanx. You can try to sell me on Spanx all you want, and I ain't gonna buy it. And for a lot of you guys, that's what you guys have been trying to do with raising capital, is you guys are trying to sell Spanx to me, right? That ain't gonna work. Now, what is her ideal client? Who is her ideal client? Most likely, probably a mom who's maybe in her late 30s and above, who need that product, right? I'm gonna try to be nice here, but it's the same with anything, right? Like even like Bang energy drinks or Monster energy drinks. Do you think their ideal client is an 87-year-old woman in a nursing home? No, right? Their ideal client is probably someone who's a younger male, who is on the go all the time, loves it. Like that is their ideal client, and that's what I want to figure out for you guys. Now, how do you go about doing that? How do you figure out who your ideal client is? Well, very simple. You gotta know what your product is, right? Now, we're gonna talk about product as the number 2 question, but when I think product, I'm thinking, who does this resonate the most with? So I'll give you a perfect example. I remember when I was younger, I was super frustrated with raising capital. I was like, oh my gosh, like why aren't these people getting the message? Why am I struggling so hard? And it drove me nuts. I was like about to tear my hair out because everyone was like, well, keep going, Daniel. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. Yeah, maybe it is to some point, but I want better numbers. I want better conversions. I want to play the numbers game at the highest level without putting in the least amount of work, right? That's me. My mantra is, how can I get the most amount of results with the least amount of headaches, least amount of time, with the path of least resistance? Like that's my thing, right? So I asked myself, okay, who am I talking to? I just broke it down in very basic fundamental thinking. I said, who am I talking to? And why are they not, why am I struggling so much? And really, at the end of the day, it was because, well, they didn't need what I was offering them. My product at the time was buy and hold apartment complexes. That was my product. And a lot of the people I talked to weren't resonating. So what I did is I went back to those people and I said, hey, if you don't mind me asking, why did you say no? Did I do something wrong? Did you not like my strategy? Did you not like the market? Do you think that whatever? Like, again, no harm, no foul. I just want you to be honest. Can you please tell me? I need the feedback. And I kid you not, I think about 90% of them, if it wasn't 90%, it's pretty darn close, said something along the lines of, well, right now I'm looking to more so invest in flips. Or, hey, I'm not in a financial position where I want my money being tied up for that long. And I was like, wow, okay, that's really helpful. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of you guys say, well, I have 6 or 7 investors in my database. I have 8, 9 investors in my Rolodex, right? well, are every single one of them resonating with the product that you're offering them? Maybe 4 of them wants to do flips and 5 of them wants to do, or 4 of them wants to do flips, 2 of them wants to do single family rentals, and only 3 of them wants to do apartment complex buy and hold. And your product is apartment complex buy and hold. Because if that's the case, I would make the argument that you actually don't have 9 investors, you only have 3, right? Do you guys see how that works? Okay, perfect. I don't know why I said perfect. I can't even hear your guys' response. But anyways, that's the question I asked myself. Okay, how can I find people that resonate with my product more? And I broke down, when I'm doing apartment complex financing, what are the benefits? Like, what are the benefits of me doing this, right? So I wrote down the list of, hey, it's passive investing, it's long-term cash flow, and it's growth, right? Because we're accumulating principal and we're growing the equity at the same time. They give awesome appreciation benefits. So if I increase the income, the value of the property will go up. And last but not least, a lot of tax benefits, right? Because there's a thing called straight line depreciation when you invest in apartment complexes, where you take the value of the building, not the land, and you divide it by 27.5, and that's the amount of depreciation you get every single year. But there's also accelerated depreciation, there's cost seg. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do on the tax side for owning a rental portfolio. So I asked myself, well, who are the people that resonate with this the most? And I found a top 3 list, and number 1 on that list was doctors, right? So anesthesiologists, orthopedic surgeons, radiologists, guys who are making $500,000, $750,000 a year. They were busy because obviously they're doctors, and they have a very important role in our society. But not only that, but they really wanted the tax benefits. I mean, they love the tax benefits. So doctor, that's the answer I came up with, right? So let's go back to the whiteboard. And doctors were the people who resonated with my message. And so that was my ideal client. I was like, okay, so my ideal client is a doctor. So if that's the case with my marketing, right? Because we have marketing. And by the way, if you crush it at this thing, you will crush it at sales, right? Like, sales becomes so much easier because you're selling to people that want your product, that resonate with your product, that is a good fit for your product, right? Like, so Sarah Itzler is going to have a much easier time selling to a 51-year-old mom than to someone like me, right? Like, she's going to have, she probably doesn't even have to do any selling. She just tell her what the product is and be like, oh yeah, perfect, I want that, right? But so this changes. So knowing my ideal client changes my marketing. Now I need to know, hey, who do I talk to? Where do I go? What do they do? How do they think? And this is really important. Let me stop right here and say that when it comes to marketing, I could care less about demographic, geographic. What I care about is psychographics. How do people think? How are they making their decisions? I want to know how people think, what values they align with, because that's how they're going to resonate with my message. So this is the power, guys, of knowing who your ideal client is. So take a second right here, pause the video, and write down, answer the question, who is my ideal client? As in, with my how does this resonate, right? Like, how does this resonate with all people? Who does this message resonate the most with? All right, so now you pause the video. I'm going to give you guys time to do that. All right, now let's move on to number 2, because number 2 makes number 1 makes a lot more sense. I wanted you guys to pause the video and go through with it, because I want you to do this step by step. So if you haven't already paused the video, go through number 1, do your best, right? But what we're going to cover with question number 2 is going to help with your ideal client significantly. So that way we can kind of do it inch by inch as opposed to trying to do it all yourself, right? Or at the same time. So here's question number 2. What is my product? And what is what I call your grand slam offer? All right, so grand slam, I'm just gonna write grand offer. All right, there you go. Make a lot of you OCD people feel better. Grand slam offer. All right, so what I define product as is 3 different things. So product is made up of, first and foremost, you're a product, the strategy, and the asset. So when you guys are raising capital, these 3 things make up the product, right? So when you guys are doing a deal, when you guys are trying to get them to invest in your deal, well, a big part of that is you as the operator. Hey, are you going to do a good job at running the asset? Are you, because I mean, if you think about it, when you're buying a piece of real estate, guys, when you're buying a 12-unit cash flowing rental property, you're really buying a business. Your tenants are your customers. You have a chief financial officer who's doing the books on that building and running, the K1s, and you have a CEO, which is most likely you. You have human resources, right? I mean, you have to know how to work with people, especially if it's maintenance guys and contractors. I mean, you name it, right? And you're going to have all these different positions, and a lot of times they're going to be filled by you, right? Because you are an entrepreneur. So how good are you at managing the deal, right? Do you have a great team around you? Did you underwrite the asset properly to make sure that this building cash flows? You are the product. And of course, secondly, you have the strategy. Like, hey, what's going to happen? Why are we buying this building at this place, in this market? Is the goal to raise rents, right? Like, you have to have a strategy that you could sell to your investors. Even if the strategy is, hey, we're going to buy this building. It's cash flowing already at a 17% cash on cash return annually. And we're just going to hold on to it. We're going to hold on to it for 5 years, 10 years, as long as we can cash flow, right? And this is going to be the return, and this is what it's going to be. And last but not least, you have the asset. Like, hey, this is the building that we're buying. So here's this beautiful, beautiful 16-unit apartment complex. It cash flows at this level, and this is the product, right? So these three things make up your product. Now the question is, have you done it yet? And really, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what you're selling. You're selling a strategy and an asset. Now, for those of you guys that are building relationships with investors, maybe you don't have a deal to sell yet, that's perfectly fine. You and the strategy is enough. Let me tell you from experience, and that's actually where I'm at right now, where I'm not necessarily working on a deal, but I know I'm raising money because I know there's opportunities and things that I want to take advantage of here shortly. So myself and the strategy is enough, right? Like if Elon Musk came out and says, hey, I am planning on starting this company that's going to solve this problem, join me for a 1-hour webinar on how exactly I'm going to do that, what the company is going to be all about, what my strategy is going to be. Guarantee you by the end of the hour, he'll have plenty of investors to be able to invest in that company, even if he doesn't have a deal or a project that the company is undertaking pretty shortly, right? So question is, have you done it yet, right? So pause real quick, guys, pause the video and figure out what are your value plays? What do you offer? What is your strategy? As in, what is the blueprint, right? So what is like the 6 to 12 month blueprint? And the asset. And if you don't have a deal right now, we'll talk about your ideal deal. What does that look like? In a perfect, like, what are you looking for, right? Like, what are the deals that is ideal? That's what you want to write down. All right, so pause real quick. I'll give you guys 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, you pause. Let's move on to the Grand Slam offer, because this is where things get really juicy. And this is actually how I had a really significant conversion ratio. Like almost everybody I talked to for raising capital said yes, right? Because not only was my marketing really, really good, but my offer, my Grand Slam offer was phenomenal as well, right? Because you want to have both things, right? So even going back, right, marketing, sales, and then the close, right, the offer or the product, right? I had something here and I had something here that made this way easier. So my conversion ratio was dang near 100%. Like almost every single investor I talked to said yes. Why? Because, well, I did a really good job at funneling people and making sure these were the right people, AKA I had quality leads is what I had. I qualified my leads. And then I had something here called my Grand Slam offer that made people impossible for them to say no. Like I made it impossible for them to say no. So this became really, really easy, the thing in here in the middle. All right, so what was my Grand Slam offer? So your Grand Slam offer is going to be dictated and predicated on who your ideal client is going to be. So going back to the Spanx example, if Sarah Itzler is selling Spanx to a 51-year-old mom, well, maybe her Grand Slam offer is, hey, we'll send you a copy of a free book written by Rachel Hollis, right? So for those of you guys that don't know, Rachel Hollis is a very well-known author that caters to the female audience, right? Like she even said it, I had the pleasure of watching her at a very intimate mastermind about a couple weeks back, and she said her ideal client is the mom who goes to Target with Starbucks in her hands with 2 kids on, running around, and she just wants to get through the day, right? And she's just, right? Like, that's her ideal client. So for her, obviously there's a lot of gifts, a lot of grants, like she can create a pretty nice Grand Slam offer because she's so in tune with who her ideal client is. And that's the same thing that you guys got to do, right? So based on your ideal client, what is the best Grand Slam offer? So I will tell you what mine was. So my ideal client obviously was what? It was a doctor, right? So that was my my dream client, was a doctor. Okay. So after speaking with a lot of doctors, I asked them, hey, why do you want to invest in real estate? Like, you already have stocks, you have bonds, like, and here's what they said. They said diversity in assets and tax benefits. Like, a lot of them had CPAs that were telling you, hey, Dr. Johnson, you got to get yourself into some real estate because you earn a lot, you have very high W-2 income and all your investment income, your taxes aren't looking so pretty. So you need some depreciation and some real estate for your tax benefits. So what my Grand Slam offer was I gave them 100% of the depreciation. Because if I split the deal 50-50, right? So there's the LP, the limited partner, which is your investor, and then there's the GP, the general partner, which is me and you, the guys who are actually putting in the work and doing the deal. LPs, they invest their money so that can happen, right? Both are really, really important. So we split everything down 50-50. So cash flow was 50-50, appreciation was 50-50. And my Grand Slam offer is at the end, I would use this at the end to close the person, to transition them into the close. I would say that you as the LP get 100% of the depreciation. And by the way, that's going to save you, right, $14,000 a year. Or, 15, or, you could use whatever number you want, or $28,000 a year. And that was awesome. Like, it just closed people. That's the part where it was like, all right, I'm in, right? And you got to have that. So you got to have your product and you got to have your Grand Slam offer. But obviously, to do these things, you got to know who your ideal client is, right? So let's take a pause here, right? So pause the video real quick as I erase all this stuff, and write out what is your Grand Slam offer and who is your, how can you create that offer based on who your ideal client is, right? So you guys, at this point, you paused twice, right? So we got our ideal client, we got what is our product, and now what we need to do is we need to figure out what is our Grand Slam offer. That's what we need to really, really figure out, okay? All right, last but not least, so now that you guys are back, now that you're done pausing, and we're back here to reality, right? Back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Okay, if you get that joke, then kudos to you, my friend. Okay, so last but not least, our third question is number 3. What is the marketplace saying? So what is the market saying? Because at the end of the day, you can have your ideal client, you can have your offer, and you can have your strategy. But if all these things go against what's happening in the market, you are swimming upstream, right? It's going to be a really tough battle. I mean, you are sprinting uphill because, again, you got to know the battlefield, right? Like, understanding your offer and your strategy, like, those are your weapons. That's like your shield and your sword. But you got to know the market, because what if you have a shield and a sword and the battle is being fought on water? All of a sudden, game changes, right? So you got to know what is the market saying. And right now, what is the market saying? Well, the market's saying currently, at the time of recording, mid-2022, the market's saying that there's a lot of inflation. The market's saying that assets are overpriced. And the market's saying there's too much cash out there, right? There's so much liquidity. I don't think that's how you spell liquidity, but there you go. There's too much liquidity happening. So are there things that you could change to your strategy, your offer, and your ideal client based on what's happening right now? Absolutely. So you have to understand what is the market saying. And when I say market, I don't mean just the investment market, but your industry market as well. So what is everybody else doing? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. What is everybody else that's raising capital doing, and how can you stand out? So for me, my standout was that Grand Slam offer. They wanted to invest with me and nobody else because I was offering this. And you guys can do that too. So this is a short one, but pause the video, or actually we're ending the module now. And after this module, what I want you guys to do is write down, what is the market saying? What is the industry doing? How can you stand out? These are questions that I want you guys to really, really heavily consider. All right, guys, so with that said, that's the end of module 2. I'll see you guys in module 3.